Hello, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Stephen Stoneful Irish Rugby as a bit as Ulster's brilliant performance against Leinster on Saturday night carries over into this week for the celebration. So sorry, Brandon, just letting you know we heard a bit of background. You just Is just a bit echo. Yeah, probably there. So anyway, Ulster have went in and gave a performance at the RDS that I can say it was one of the most memorable performances on that night for Ulster. I was privileged to be there, and they continue that form. I went to Ospreys. And I'm sort of an informed Ospreys. I will want to definitely hit back after wasn't a good result for them in the west of Ireland. But I've got someone who's a pure Ospreys fan, and you may have seen him a lot around the YouTube community. Brandon Smith, aka BS RUGBY. Hello, mate. Welcome to the channel. Have this preview.
Hi mate, how are you doing? Thank you very much for having me on. As always, it's good to chat rugby and looking forward to this big game.
I would definitely say yes. It's a big game. Do you know what? Before we get into this preview, because I know, there's been a lot of talk lately about the URC and because Munster haven't got back from, we don't know what the situation going on with Munster in South Africa. I think I know Scarlets are in Belfast self-isolating, and I know Cardiff Blues are trying to get back onto the plane. It's a very, very, very dire situation at the moment. I just want to get your thoughts, Brandon, on the situation so far. We've seen Cardiff, we've seen the Scarlets, we've seen Munster go down to South Africa, to play against the Bulls and the Stormers and the Sharks. And unfortunately, there's been this new variant around, and it's been causing havoc amongst the competition lately. What's been your overall thoughts on this? How do you see this going forward? But because they have rescheduled matches of this, they're going out. Stormers now, the South African team are now going to play each other. But now it's the case of where is this going to go going forward the competition?
It's a very difficult situation, isn't it? I've been covering it quite a bit on my Twitter over the past few days, and following the development, it seems to be, a very tough one. We finally have some news. Obviously, as you said, Scarlets are back, Zebra are back, Munster are back to an extent, and then Cardiff Rugby are set to fly back tomorrow. And I've just recently seen that Cardiff, even though they'll be without, I think it's 32 first teamers, they're still going to try and play that Toulouse game, which I think is crazy in the Champions Cup. It's odd, isn't it? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic and we still said we're going to go forward with this. We're going to try and travel to South Africa. It's just a little bit crazy. And with this new variant coming in, nobody could have seen that coming. So that's no one's fault that new variant's come in. Nobody knew it was going to happen, but it's a difficult situation. And, the support from different authorities, especially for the Welsh sides, hasn't been great. I know a lot of the regions have come out and spoken about that. I can't really speak for Munster and for the Irish side of things, but it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? It doesn't look good for the URC. It really doesn't look good for it. But at least they've found, to an extent, a solution. They're going to play the South African derbies this weekend, so we'll see them play against each other. But again, it's going to affect things for quite a while. But it's going to push things back. I'm going to have to fit in games in strange times. So I think the most important thing, though, is the health and well-being of the players and the staff, that they're okay. Seems like they are. Seems like some of the players maybe struggled a little bit mentally, but coming home, I think, will be a massive help for them. So hopefully we're on the right way now.
I think so. I want to see us going the right way up to a fair Brandon. But my thoughts on this and the whole whole URC thing is I was definitely backing at the start of the season, but I knew there was also in my mind also back then was, are you sure you wouldn't be playing this competition? During the pandemic, and you've seen what has been going on in South Africa lately. I mean, there's been heavy protests among the country, not just in rugby, but in the whole country as well, because of riots and certain things going on. Was it really a good idea? I was like, Brandon, was in the back of your mind, was this really a good idea to have this, thought of in the summer when all this was going on?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? Because again, this new variant, nobody knew that was going to happen. But in the current climate of the world, where a lot of people are getting vaccinated, and I don't want to quote numbers or anything like that, but there's still a lot of people who have the option to get vaccinated, haven't taken that option. Again, it's up to people if they want to take the vaccination or not. That's absolutely up to individuals to choose. But it's such a difficult one, because you couldn't have seen this coming. But again, you've got to think, look, we've just had the biggest pandemic we've probably seen since the World War, and we're going and playing a new rugby competition. We're bringing in South African teams. I have my thoughts on that anyway, but They're bringing in these South African teams. It's not as if we're bringing a Georgian team in, or we're bringing another Italian team in, or we're bringing a German team in. It's on the other side of the world. It's in a different hemisphere. Down in South Africa right now, it's the summer for them. So it's very different, and I'm surprised that they did push on with it. But money talks. So
to be fair, I've known this all about my life. It's all about money at the end of the day, and I see this going in the direction of money wise. But this can be in other terms. I can see why, because you look at football, for example, they pushed it to a level which I thought was absolutely disgraceful, but I won't go into that. I think rugby's a totally different sport to what football is. My thoughts on the whole thing is just was really weird because yes, you are in a pandemic and people are getting vaccinated, but you've seen what's been going on in South Africa, and you've seen what the vaccination program's been like over here in the UK. It's been much better to what some countries. Was it seriously a good idea to really fly all them teams out to South Africa, where you just never know what's going to happen in that country? Because I just feel like it's going in a direction where it's really getting political, and it's into a stage where that's really it's really dangerous. But I hope that South Africa, after they've learned some lessons from it, they can move on, and we can hopefully get some games going, because that's all we want at the end of the day. We don't want this competition to be like the Rainbow Cup and just be scrapped at all this kind of stuff. I hate that kind of stuff, Brandon. I hate it when in competitions get scrapped after a few games now because of this whole thing. I just hope I definitely would have went. I knew when those news came out that you could definitely push those games back to maybe springtime. But now they made a decision to play the South African teams play each other basically now, and then wait for them to play the Munsters in the springtime, which hopefully by then it'll be more better because of the whole booster hopefully program. But we'll move on from that. And definitely made our thoughts clear, but it was definitely something we had to mention because it's part of the competition, and we want to see the best for our teams go well at this, because I know Munster, Scars and Cardiff must be going through a seriously rough time away from their families, because I would know what it's like. It's horrible, man. It's horrible. But anyway, we'll get to the preview. There is a big game at the Liberty Stadium in Swansea as Ulster have another away trip to the Ospreys. Rasmus Rugby here is a really great Ospreys fan. I think for you, Brandon, first, Ospreys have been on a bit of form from the start of the season, and and I would like to know, how have you seen this team so far, and what did you made of the season so far, and how your team has been doing?
Really positive start, actually. We'll get on to last week in a second, but really positive start. We don't play the most attractive rugby in the world, but Toby Booth has got us very organised. In a way, Rhys Webb not going to Wales has been a blessing in disguise, because he's really been able to control things from 9. He's been the captain quite a few times now. The experience of someone like Stephen Myler outside him is fantastic. And we have some really good youngsters coming through as well, and some players who maybe didn't quite make it at other clubs. People like Matt Prothero, who came in from Bristol, I want to say it was, didn't really make the grade at Bristol, has come to us and has been absolutely fantastic. And just a really good core of players. We're solid in the pack, pretty solid at the breakdown. We've got some good backs, Prothero. We've got, I forget his name, Luke Morgan. And we got players like Owen Watkin, who's an international. So we've done pretty well to start the season. Last week was a really poor showing against Connacht, although I've got to give credit to Connacht. They were fantastic. They played some really good rugby and threw the ball about, and the conditions were horrific, were really, really bad. And yet they still played a lovely brand of rugby where they're throwing it about. Matt Hansen tearing us a new one at points. But we couldn't do the basics at all. We really couldn't do the basics. We were really struggling at the breakdown, and our defence was just all over the place. So that would have been a concern. This week's going to be tougher, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But maybe our style will suit the way Ulster want to play a little bit more. So hopefully it's dry at the Liberty to an extent, or Swansea.com Stadium as it's now known. But on the whole, a positive start to the season. I think we've been the strongest of the 4 Welsh regions so far.
I definitely agree with you. I think Ospreys have definitely been shown that they're the informed team. Like in the past, when I've seen them a few seasons, they've been down in a way that you see the likes of maybe Scarlets and Cardiff doing that. But I can definitely see the Ospreys sort of getting back into a way that's sort of their old self, and that's what I kind of want to see, because you want Wales to do better in developing players, especially from each country, promises. I think when you went to Connacht on Friday night, and you've looked at Connacht ever since I think Munster. I don't think they were in the best of form before that Munster game. And then they went to Munster and actually gave them a game. I think Jack Hardy was one of the standouts of that game. I think should have been stuck to maybe the Irish squad, but that's another story. But Connacht went to Munster and to give them a game. They lost by a few points. Connacht turned up, and then they went to face Ulster. I was one of the unfortunate ones to be there when they played us in the Viva Stadium. We lost by 35 points to 11. And then when you see Connacht doing it to the Ospreys, Brandon, I think you made your points clear. I know you made your points clear about the match on Friday, but looking at Connacht, do this to them, maybe like the Ospreys and giving Munster a game and doing this to the likes of Ulster. Do you see Connacht going in a direction that could sort of maybe overtake one of the Irish provinces, like an Ulster or Munster, going forward if they keep this form up?
If I'm being totally honest, probably no. I think that the amount of players they lose to the Irish squad compared to the likes of Ulster, I know Leinster have insane depth, Munster as well, but the amount of players that they lose, like Jack Carty did eventually get that call up as injury cover, but didn't get on the pitch, so he's able to come straight back in. You look at the centres, they don't tend to get called up except for Bundy Aki. Matt Hansen is Irish eligible, was called up, but didn't really play at all, if I'm right in saying that. So the core of that team will be there week in, week out. And the sports ground can be a fortress. If they can make it a fortress, make it somewhere where it's so difficult to go and play, especially with the conditions being the way that they are. I just think that when the other provinces in Ireland get their players back, get them all back, which they should this weekend for sure, ahead of next weekend's European games, I just can't see them competing with the others. I think that's going to be the challenge for them. Again, though, they're a very strong team in this competition. They're probably the fourth, maybe fifth best team in this competition, potentially somewhere around that. So they're still a very good side, but keeping up with the likes of Munster, Leinster, and Ulster, I'm not too sure. But who knows if they can keep this momentum? Because momentum's a big thing, isn't it? If they can keep that going, then they'll be all right. I think.
I would definitely agree. I think Connacht, like what you said, if I look at Connacht, they were going up in form. I would definitely put my hats up and say well done to them. But like this form that they have, like you said, I mean, it comes down to players getting back for the clubs. But I did see Connacht having went up to the level in these few matches that you very safe Connacht. I just do believe that they may fall away, but we'll have to wait and see where that goes. But definitely a good question there. And then to the next question, Brandon. I'm going to turn this back. Even though it's an Ospreys Ulster preview, I wanted to get your thoughts on Ulster because you saw against Connacht got thrashed. Ulster from that game, we weren't even at the races. I don't know why we didn't turn up because that could have been a game that could have been in our hands to go on and win and then take advantage of that pull. Like after the game, you think you go into Leinster away and you're thinking, oh goodness me, another thrashing in the first 5 minutes. But fair play to Ulster. I was there. I didn't expect anything from the game, but there was a pure Ulster fan support away from home. And I think for the first minute, Ulster at Dan McFarlane had 4 weeks to prepare for this game. And I definitely think Dan McFarlane definitely knew how he would need to win this game. So it all came to box kicking from Cooney and Nathan Doak. That was one of the key factors for me. And the defence was definitely crucial because if you let Leicester in through one of your friends and then you don't let them scroll over and try, it's game over. But Ulster had this game plan against Leicester. And you know what? To be fair to them, they picked up a big win against at the RDS. From your perspective, Brandon, do you think Ulster are on the right path as a neutral watching after that performance on Saturday, or do you think because we have the likes of Jane Vermeulen going to come back in, we're going to see the likes of Rob Balakoon back in, Jacob Stockdale back in, I think Nick Timoney started on Saturday, but all them players sweet players to come back. How do you see this going for Ulster after this huge win on Saturday?
First of all, got to say, I thought Ulster were fantastic on Saturday. I thought they played the perfect game plan. I thought that Nick Timoney and David Raya, however you say his name.
Well, there's 2 Rays. Funny enough, there's Matty Ray and there's Marcus Ray, and they're both brothers. So the one you saw that came on was called Marcus Ray, but
Marcus Ray, yeah.
Marcus Ray.
Yeah, Marcus Ray and Nick Timoney were incredible, especially Nick Timoney over the ball. I thought that when Nathan Doak came on, he had a real big impact. He's obviously been shown a lot of promise and could certainly be within the conversation for the Six Nations for Ireland. I think Ulster have the ability to play like that. They didn't play particularly expansive rugby, but they didn't need to because they knew the way to beat Leinster. And the fact that they can adapt their game plan, Dan McFarlane spoke after and said, look, we had to bring physicality. And that's absolutely what they did. I think across the season, having that adaptability is massive. The fact that you can play different ways and you can play them well. Again, as you said, you got players like Stockdale to come back in, Rob Balakoon to come back in. You got players like that who are going to be potentially available this weekend. I just thought that the performance was fantastic. Yes, Leinster weren't at the races, but you just nullified everything that they could do. That was good. And fair play to you. I think you will be up there come the end of the season. I really do.
Yeah, I think for me, as an Ulster fan, look at this. We've seen this before. All I think Ulster, on the way that, because they're tied with points now with Leinster, and they've got these huge games that every game will be a cup final until by the end of January before this organisation starts again. And you'll see players, in and out of this team. What I want to see from Ulster is with also the likes of, I think, Vermeulen, James Vermeulen, whatever, play his debut match against Clermont or at home to Northampton. That's when, because if you add him to that backline, alongside all them, from I think it's the 6th and 7th and 8th, there's good rotation there, and I think James Vermeulen's one of the best number 8s in the world. I think that's been a huge boost for Ulster. But as an Ulster fan, what I want to see now is it's not drop off. Keep going as a game plan and take every game as you go. Because I've seen this before. I just don't want to see it the way we've come up short. But just keep competing and doing well. I definitely agree with what. Thanks for that, Brandon. But I think now focusing as an Ospreys fan looking into this game that's coming up on Saturday, and you gotta be prepared that Ulster fans will be coming up into Swansea, and they'll be coming in their droves, shouting for the Ulster men, and they'll want to see a performance. But as an Ospreys fans looking at this and still competing in the league so far, where you're on the position, how do you break down this Ulster team, and and also just come back after a huge win at the RDS? How do you sort of nullify that in your opinion?
I don't know. It's going to be very, very difficult, because the game plan I would have gone for against Ulster in the past would have been to bully them up front. That's the way I would have gone about it. See if we can do that, because we know Ulster love to throw the ball about. They love to have John Cooney, Nathan Doak doing little sniping runs, Bob Balakoon on the wing, Stockdale, Billy Burns, Hume, McCluskey. That backline's fantastic. I think we're going to struggle at the breakdown a lot. I think that Nick Timoney's going to have quite a bit of success in that area. I think that's going to be the key area for us anyway, to try and get the upper hand, because I think Ulster with quick ball are probably one of the most dangerous sides in the league. If they can get that quick ball, they can get the ball to Billy Burns, he can get it to McCluskey, who can get over the game line, then you can get the ball out wide quickly. I think that is an area that we struggle with. I think it's going to be interesting to see where the teams come out, how many internationals we have back. We've got a lot of injuries, especially in the back row. And we got a few youngsters who are currently playing there who probably aren't quite ready for this level yet, but we don't have much choice but to put them in there. I think it's going to be difficult. I think we're going to have to try and keep it tight. We'll go for the post a lot with the likes of Anscombe if he plays, or Myler, whoever gets the nod. I think we will look to use the driving maul, use the scrum, things like that. I don't think we'll look to spread the ball out too much, because if it does get open, if it does get a bit scrappy, the likes of Balakoon, Cooney, Doak are all just going to pounce on that. And David Hume on Saturday, James Hume, that intercept, he just went for it, he backed himself, and that's something that Ulster do. They back themselves to try things, and I think we're going to have to try and keep it really tight. If we're going to beat you, I don't think we can concede more than 2 tries, because I don't see us scoring more than 2. So I think that's got to be the game plan, is to try and nullify you as much as we can and take our points when we get the chance to do so.
Yeah, well said. I'm running. I think looking at this, I do for both teams really. Depends how Ospreys do it, and also because if you let Ulster into those positions, like you said, like them taking like Timoney, Rob Gallagher, especially John Cooney and Doak, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, those are things we can definitely exploit, and we can definitely get at Ospreys, because we're not taking this Osprey against lightly. If you know what I mean. We think every single team that is doing well, or is any team that going forward, Dan McFarlane is treating this like a cup final, and you know what? I bring on, because I think the Ospreys will definitely want to perform in this game, and I think Ulster would definitely want to bring their A game. Also will not want to drop off like from last week, have a hangover. This will definitely be a big game for both teams, definitely. So I think that bring on to this last question on the game. I said predicted lineups now. I'll go first, because I think in terms of where Ulster will be, a few players definitely, like I said, a few players will be coming back in. I think I see the likes of Rob Balakoon starting. I see the centers being the same as Stuart McCluskey, James Hume. 15, I think he might go with either McElroy or McElary. In terms of what we have so far, I think Craig. Now it depends on what Craig Gilroy might start as well. I think Billy it'll stick with John Cooney, Billy Burns going forward. Now said Nathan Doak's a great player. I think there's great rotation that scrum halves now in depth now, because I think Nathan Doak is he's a generational talent for this Ulster team, and especially for the province going forward. And you need that. You need depth now because John Cooney's getting more older, and I think that's definitely options we can do. But I'm happy with either one of them. And I don't think Jim Moonen is gonna really sort of start this game, because as you didn't know, Jim Moonen has tested positive, in terms of this virus, and he won't be playing on maybe until the home game against Northampton. Who knows? But and then if I wouldn't change, I might bring Eric O'Sullivan, alongside Rob Herring and Marty Moore. And I don't know about Hayden Henderson. I don't think Hayden Henderson's going to start, but I think I'm going to be the same with Alan O'Connor and Sam Carter. That's my Ulster team. So I think for you, Brandon, what would your predicted Ospreys team be, and where do you think? How do you see the lineup?
I think it'll be quite interesting to see who comes back in. I'm just looking at last week's starting 15 here, and I don't see all that much change happening to it. Last week we went with Nicky Smith, Elvis Tyone, and Tom Boata in the front row. Once again, I'd be surprised if that was to change. Bradley Davis and Rhys Davis in the locks are decent. The back row, Sam Cross and Ethan Roots are okay. Keep an eye out on Jack Morgan. Really good 7.
Will
definitely be playing for Wales in the next year or so, and he's quite similar to Michael Hooper in style of play. He loves to get over the ball, very comfortable in the loose, so keep an eye out on him. He's going to be key. I'd expect Webb to go at 9 again. He'll captain the side. Interesting to see whether Anscombe will get the nod at 10 or he'll stick with Milo at 10. I think we might see Anscombe on the bench. That's what I think will happen. Luke Morgan will stay on the wing. Potentially Matt Prothero comes in on the opposite wing for Max Nagy, who I'm not too sure on. We might see Michael Collins come into the centre for Joe Hawkins. I expect Owen Watkins to be there. And I also expect Dan Evans to be at fullback. So I don't think we'll see too many changes. Again, I think it'll be a process of getting the internationals back in, ready for the European games next weekend. So I don't think we'll see too many changes, but I'd expect them to at least be on the bench and hopefully come on to make an impact.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I have great points. Brandon, I mean, those are players like Jack Morgan. I think Jack Morgan is definitely something to watch out for, but I think the whole Ospreys team you need to watch out for, because you know what? They could have good performances if they perform well on Saturday. So all I see this is, yes, you can look at some individual players if they're brilliant, but you need to look at the whole team. If the whole team plays well against Ulster, then they could get over the line. But who knows? I don't know as an Ulster fan, and he doesn't know as an Ospreys fan. I do see Ulster as favourites, but we never take these games for granted anyway. I think none of us do. So thank you very much, Brandon Smith Rugby, for coming on today. I had this big game on Saturday for Ospreys against Ulster. Just a final forward before we go. What would your score prediction be for Saturday if you were to make one? Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what my head is saying. My head is backing Ulster to win this one by 25-12 to Ulster, maybe 25-15, but my heart obviously backs at Ospreys to win this one 23-20. Yep. So, but more than likely it's going to be an Ulster win, but we can always hope, can't we? I have to say Ospreys as an Ospreys fan.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I would never disagree with you on that. For me, I'm gonna go with a 22-15 points win for Ulster. I think Ulster will want to definitely kick on from this. But I think Ulster will give away some points, but I think we'll just make it over the line ahead of Ospreys on Saturday. But there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching this preview ahead of the big game. Thank you to Brandon Smith Rugby for coming on today as an Ospreys fan to give it perspective ahead of the game. Thank you very much, mate, for coming on. And just to make sure, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Stevens over Irish Rugby, as I just reached over 392 subscribers. Keep that going. Need to get to 400 eventually down the line. And the channel keeps growing. Thank you very much, guys. The community keeps growing. And thank you guys for watching. And